Okay, what I'm trying to figure out real quick is that the view you guys have is not changing. I'm trying to figure out why mine is changing, yours isn't. So bear with me, okay? Do you guys still see the we're getting started at 1 minute after slide? That's probably what you see. That's what I'm guessing here. So I'm going to switch this around. Bear with me here. I got it. Hold on. Okay, you guys should see now a screen that says congratulations, thank you for being here. Correct, Lance? I see you responded quickly. Awesome, thank you. Okay. Whew. All right, cool. Let's get started. So again, thanks for being here. It's the Zero to Millionaire webinar. Now, it's 7 principles. There's a lot more than that. We're going to go over 7 today. So we'll get into who I am and my background and all that, and really no one cares about that. You guys want some techniques and some ideas that might help shake something loose in your life or in your brain that might take you to another level. So this took me years and years and years of finding people that would mentor me and asking them questions, basically begging people to let me follow them around. So, well, my goal with this is if I can get you to just learn one thing and you can use it to change something in your life, whether it's maybe something with your health, your happiness, or your finances, then I've done my job. And again, I always want to say this. Thank you very much for taking an hour out of your life to be with me here. So let's rock and roll. So I have 2 outcomes for our time together today. Okay, so one of us is share with you the principles, like I said, the principles that I've used to create wealth. And those of you that want to take notes, if you email me, one of the biggest is my library, the books that I read. And I have a few slides that I'm not using right now in this presentation. I can send you for my recommended reading list. So I've got over 700 books, but I've got a list of like the top 20 or 30 books that I think you need to have. So if you want to email me, my email will be at the end of this, and I'll send it over to you. And then also share with you how I can help you create wealth if you qualify and if you are interested. I'll explain everything at the end. Most of you know I'm a professional networker, and I also help people invest in land, and that's where my wealth is created. We'll get into all that later. So again, nothing to sell today. I'm just going to give you guys ideas, and at the end, I'm going to give you a couple cool concepts, and then we'll see if you guys want to work with me further after today. So I have some rules. I didn't want to put get rich quick scheme or whatever. It's just there's no such thing as getting rich quick. So I'm 48 years old. I didn't create a pretty decent amount of wealth until I was 46 or 47. I've been bankrupt, broke, had my car repossessed 8 years ago. We'll get into my story here shortly. But the last 6 years, way more than negative zero, way more than negative to multimillionaire, to say the least. So again, I'm going to kind of give you some ideas of what I've done the last 5 or 6 years that changed my life. One of my favorite terms, those of you know, I teach networking. It's network, not net lazy. It's network, not net sit around. It's network, not net sit and wait for the phone to ring. You got to work. You got to put the work in if you want to get the results. Now, having said that, it's smart work. It's not hard work. I worked 80 hours a week for 12 years, making 80 grand a year. Now I make 7 times that work in 10 hours a week. It's not how hard you work. It's smart work. Hard work means nothing. It's the right kind of work. I'm asking you for the next 45 or 50 minutes to relax and just listen. Try not to look at your phone. I have my phone in front of me, turned face down. Give me an hour of no phone and let's have some fun. I'm going to try to make you guys laugh a little bit, but we don't have a lot of time for a comedy show here. All right. So again, this was promoted mostly by Eric Lofholm, and I promoted a little bit, but most of you are proteges of Eric. I think I've known Eric now for 13 years. He's one of my 4 mentors. Now, me personally, I didn't go to Eric so much for sales training. I went to Eric for systems training. I had an audio course in me. I just didn't know how to produce it and put it together, and I went to Eric for that, and then we ended up doing a whole bunch of, I think we've done 11 or 12 seminars together now all over the Bay Area. And I hired Eric as a mentor, and then the coolest thing in the world is when your mentor says, and this is Eric's word for word quote, look at the bottom, when you're being mentored by somebody and then you become very good and very successful in something and your mentor comes to you. Pretty cool. So Rick Silva is one of my mentors. I'm excited to have all of you meet him and be introduced to some of his ideas on wealth building. So I'll probably cover it again, but what I've learned is reading 700 books, thousands and thousands of hours in my car, and then finding mentors, wealthy people, and ask them questions. That's kind of the underlying theme of this. So let's talk about me real quick. I'm Rick Silva. I'm a former engineer with Eastman Kodak, and I was a recruiter with Cisco Systems. That was way back, way back. I'm currently the president and founder of B2B Gathering. So I run referral groups. I run monthly networking groups all over the Tri-Valley in California. I've created 2 webinar-based courses. One is around 11 hours on networking, and the other one is about 7 hours on power partnering. If you haven't heard that term, I'll give you an idea what that is a little bit later. 2008, I was bankrupt, and now I'm a wealthy land banker. Listen, probably close to 9,000 hours in my car at this point and read over 700 books. So I have an AA degree in electrical engineering from Heald College, but then I have 5 or 6 college degrees from what I like to call the Automobile University. What you can do in your car. Audible is like $9 a month. There are courses on Audible that I paid $300 and $400 for 15 years ago. You can get for $8. So if you don't have Audible, you know, cut out 1 coffee a month and go get yourself Audible. Audible is the single greatest invention in the history of mankind. I don't even know how. I don't know how people make money selling their $400 courses on there for $8, but it's awesome for me. I appreciate it. 1998 to 2001, I made and lost a fortune in the stock market. So when I left Eastman Kodak in 98, I became a recruiter, and I rode a wave of fame and fortune in the .com world. I was doing staffing for startups. I had pre-IPO stock with 12 or 13 different companies. I had 1.3 million in my Schwab account, and in 2001, I'm 30 or 31 years old. I go from 1.3 million in my Schwab account, stock in 13 different startups, to all of it gone. Bye-bye, everything gone. Then I get married, and in 2008, I get divorced. I have a couple kids. To get out of divorce in February of 08, we decided to get divorced. Those who remember the real estate downturn, I walked from my house. I didn't give it back to the bank. I gave it to my ex-wife. I did what's called a deed of trust transfer. So what happened, we had a ton of equity the end of 07. The beginning of 08 was when the bank-owned property started releasing properties, and my house went $200,000 under market. So there was no way to sell it. So I gave it to her, and she's still to this day with my kids. For me, wanting to become wealthy, but losing millions in a stock market and my house going down with no control of my own freaked me out. So I always wanted to be wealthy. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I was always looking for something that wasn't, to me, as risky, and it was lucrative. And I obviously found that, and we'll get into that later. I met Marcella. She told me that she would help people invest in land. I didn't know what that was, because all I know is the Kiyosaki cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. All your investments have to cash flow. And now that it's years later, I completely disagree with that. So do my mentors. A lot of people don't understand the difference between cash flow and passive income. They don't even exist in the same conversation. I'm not going to get too much into that today, but you should look up the difference between cash flow and passive income. Cash flow really, cash flow is not going to make you wealthy. It might make you comfortable, might pay some of your bills. Cash flow is not going to make you wealthy, and I mean wealthy, wealthy. Passive income will make you wealthy, wealthy. When I was raised, and we'll get into this more a little bit later also, but when I was raised, I knew about investing in houses and stocks because that's what my parents did. Well, guess what? My parents aren't that wealthy. So I needed to find something else. And the two things that really taught me about wealth was land and owning businesses. But most of us, not all of us, most of us were raised, and all we knew was houses and stocks, houses and stocks. And I started hanging around people that were wealthy, and how'd you do it? It was primarily large commercial deals, the controlling of mass amounts of square footage, whether that's land or buildings, and then businesses. Here's the main reason. Houses and stocks cannot do something that businesses and land can, and it's called arbitrage. Arbitrage is, the best way to explain it is, if you have a house, it's worth what your neighbors sell their homes for because houses are based on comps. Stocks sell for what the stock market sells it for. You can own a business that's worth $1 million. Somebody wants it really bad. They could give $1.5 million for it. Land that on the surface looks like it's worth $100,000, but it's blocking a development, maybe a shopping mall or a housing complex can't get built until they get your land. I've seen land go from $200,000 to $1 million in a week. That's arbitrage. That's where wealth comes in. So most people that teach houses and stocks might want to question how wealthy they really are and how much wealth they created from that. There are other ways to do it besides houses and stocks. That's how I did it. Okay, land and businesses for me. So what I do now is I help people create wealth, and I teach networking, and I work about 10 hours a week, about 5 or 6 hours, 10 to 15 hours, 5 or 6 hours a week is teaching networking, 5 or 6 hours a week is helping people diversify into dirt. Okay, so let's talk about, this is what we're going to cover today. Again, we're scratching the surface on all of this. It's a webinar. I'm trying to just give you guys as many ideas in basically an hour as I can. So I'm going to tell you a cool story called the Ego Hat. That Ego Hat story has made me wealthy. Talk about investing and speculating. Leveraging, being over leveraged. That works for some people. Some people can't handle the stress of it. Something called power partnering. If you're self-employed, it's going to help you. If you have a job, you might want to just kick back and maybe not listen too close. 10 minutes. Power partnering is going to help people that are self-employed, and it's also going to help people who are involved in business development of companies. We're going to discuss 401ks, the missing link in investing, and then just some ideas about watching who you listen to. Most of this, before I even move on, most of this comes from there's a few mentors I can't really mention. Some of you that know me closely know who this came from. I try to hang around very, very, very successful and wealthy people that are willing to give me advice. So how I did it in the beginning before I had the mentors I have now is, it sounds, I'd be in a coffee shop and I'd see somebody pull up in a Maserati or a Bentley or an Aston Martin or a Rolls Royce. And the area I live now, you see those every day, but when I lived in an area where there weren't as many of those, and I'd drive to a city called Pleasanton, or I'd drive to Danville, and I'd literally, I'm not kidding, my cousin has seen me do it, I'd literally walk up to somebody that got out of a car like that when they were in the store, and I just walk up to them and go, excuse me, could I buy your coffee? And could I ask you what you do? Some people are they're gonna be like, huh? Go, if you're honest and you just say, I want to be wealthy someday, and I saw your car, you're obviously a successful person, can I ask you what you do? The answers would be money manager. The answers would be, I had one guy that was a sports agent, business owner, dry cleaners, construction companies, and I would get ideas that, one thing I can tell you, not one of them said, oh yeah, I have a Rolls Royce because I put money in a 401k. One of them said, so I would learn where people were putting their money and what they were doing. It was businesses, it was land, It was money management, not just investing just one little thing in the stock market, and a lot of business owners. So where I got, and some people would answer lots of questions, some people would answer one question, and then sometimes people would start asking you, so what do you do? And there are people out there that are successful who are willing to mentor you because it makes them feel good and because somebody mentored them. I've gotten so much help from so many wealthy people. Now, in the beginning, I had to beg for it, and now people are kind of offering to mentor me and help me. I'm doing this webinar and helping you guys because you may never thought of just finding somebody wealthy and asking them if you could literally just, could I ask you questions? Could I watch how you manage your day? There are people that will do it, and they'll be stunned if you asked. Some won't, but oh well. Let's move on. So here's my ego hat story. So those of you that know my other side of my life, the networking side, some of you only know me as a professional networker. Some of you only know me as a land banker. Professional networking, 14 years. Land banking, land investing, 6 years. I'm sitting in my mentor's office, and he's looking at me, and he goes, I know you're a big deal. In the networking world, you've signed autographs, shared the stage with Les Brown. Great. And he leans over and he points at the front door. And he goes, I know you're a big deal in your world. He goes, but in here, I want you to walk in and see that coat rack. I want you to take off the 10-gallon ego hat, and I want you to set it by the door. If you keep the ego hat on, I can't make you rich. If you can take the ego hat off and listen, I can make you wealthy. So, a lot of times, if I'm standing on stage, or even if you logged in here, who's this Rick Silva guy? Who's this guy? Who does he think he is? If you can, you're already here. You're already spending the time with me, and I'm sure most of you are doing this already. But if you can just open your mind, I'm going to say some things that might be, counterintuitive, or things you haven't heard before, or things you don't agree with. That's fine. I don't expect you to agree with everything I say. But if you can just drop the ego and go for an hour, just for an hour, go, maybe this guy knows something. Maybe. Because I'm kind of, for lack of a better term, I'm channeling ideas to you. People tell me stories. People give me ideas. I try them, and then I pass them on to other people if they worked for me. So the ego hat is, and this goes for a lot of cases, when I'm meeting somebody that's very wealthy, and we're talking about land, and they created their wealth by owning businesses, that's great. In the businesses world, they know more than me, and they should have a big ego about it. They became wealthy owning business. But when it comes to land, if they bring that ego to my side, where it's land, where they really don't have any knowledge at all, if they're bringing that ego, they only listen with half an ear. So my biggest thing I learned from mentors, when you're meeting with your mentors or when you're learning, you just take the ego, and it's more men than women. You got to take that ego and just let it go. Let it go. Just for, when you're training with somebody, just let it go and go, maybe they know, maybe they got something here. Maybe they got something. And if they don't, throw it in the garbage later. But you'll be able to listen with both ears as we go through this if you just kick the ego in the butt for an hour. Just take off your 10-gallon ego hat and leave it at the door. And then I did talk about this. I jumped around a little bit, but you got to find mentors. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I kind of already told you. I would literally stand in coffee shops. I was with my cousin one time, and I saw this lady get out of this Jaguar. It was a beautiful Jag. This is probably 10 years ago. And as I walk, I'm like, oh, that's a pretty car. What do you do? And she was a real estate agent. So I talked to her from the parking lot all the way into Nordstrom's, and then we broke off. And he looks at me and he goes, how did you do that? I go, I just told her she had a nice car. What do you do? He goes, how do you talk to strangers? He goes, where I live, if somebody walks up and asks a question, they're going to run away. I go, well, move. Don't live there. There are people that will ask, if you're humble, there are people that answer questions for you, mentor you, give you ideas, a book to read. You just have to have the guts to ask and be humble when you ask. And then also this one here, no matter what industry you're in, and I don't care what any of you do on this webinar, there is somebody in your industry that probably makes 10 times more than you. My mentors make 100 times more than me. So there are people who make 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 times more than you. Just find them. Just find them and ask for help. And I got a cool little analogy here. I came up with this when I was hiking. So my father-in-law is kind of a well-known hunter in New Mexico, and that altitude is really rough to hike out there. And he's just turned 69, and I'm in pretty good shape, and I cannot keep up with him. So we go hiking, and every year at Christmas time we're looking for a Christmas tree, and my wife blows us both away. She's in unbelievable shape. She's 12 years younger. I can't even keep up. But one thing I could do when we're hiking is I don't have to keep up. When he's hiking, he's leaving tracks in the snow. And Brian Tracy talks about this, that success leaves tracks. And I see, I can't see who typed it. Yeah, James Larkin typed, be coachable. So, but there are people who've done it, do what they did. So where my father-in-law is hiking up a hill and I can't keep up, I just walk. I literally take my feet and I step in his steps. And ultimately, I'm going to get where he is. And that's for anything. That's for your health, losing weight, putting on muscle, running a certain distance, or income. I primarily focus on, I'm a money guy. I focus primarily because my job is to help people create wealth. So I focus mostly on money. Having said that, I was ill for a while, and I'll cover that shortly, what happened to me, because I was working too much. Got to have coaches. My main guys, Brian Tracy, Bob Proctor, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Eric Lofholm, and then my land banking mentors. That's pretty much it for me. I probably spent, with Brian Tracy and Bob Proctor, probably 5,000 hours with their courses. I think that's conservative. Eric Lofholm, Eric comes over my house. I think he's been over my house twice in the last 4 or 5 months, so we try to hang out. We live kind of far away. And then my land banking mentors, the ones that help me help others invest in land. It's weekly on the phone, if nothing else, definitely weekly on the phone. I'm just checking one thing here real quick. Okay, so you gotta have mentors and you gotta have coaches, whether it's audio courses, people that you meet. You got to find them out. For instance, my wife knows I idolize Brian Tracy, and he was doing a public speaking course. And for the land business, I'm not a licensed real estate agent. My wife is. My wife does all of the classes to teach people how to invest in land. She flew down to Southern California and spent 3 days, 10 hours a day in Brian Tracy's office with 11 other people. I was so jealous, I can't even tell you. That was mega bucks for that. But what she learned has made us mega bucks. So sometimes you have to pay somebody $10,000 or $15,000 to learn what they have. But if they've done it and they're more successful than you, it's worth it. Be coachable and have coaches. Let's jump to another topic here. Investors versus speculators. Investors versus speculators. So this is from Warren Buffett. I don't need to invent anything new. It's all out there. I just got to put it together. An investor buys an asset based on what we'll do over time. Never buy anything you can't hold for 10 years. A speculator buys and sells on the movement of price going up or down. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a speculator. You can get wealthy from it. But Warren Buffett isn't a speculator, and he's pretty wealthy too. So a lot of people need excitement in their lives, and oh my God, when I want excitement, I'll take $100 and I'll go to Tahoe and throw it on roulette. That's my excitement. I don't want excitement with my life savings. That's just not me. This is how a lot of people live as it's going up and down. Oh my God, I can't retire. I can't retire. I can't retire. I can't retire. The dog is even freaking out if he's going to be okay. That's not the life I want to lead. I'm a more of a steady guy. And those of you that are investment advisors, I'm not here to bash any one thing or another. There's there's something for everyone. There's also something called diversification, where not everything should be in any one thing. Just to go a little deeper here, I'm gonna be sending a link out. I'm not reading all these pages. I've got a lot of information here you guys can read. I did a lot of research to put this stuff together. But if we want to talk about investing and a little bit more on speculation, and not speculating, typically, and it's in yellow, typically high-risk investments that are almost akin to gambling fall into the umbrella of speculation, whereas lower-risk investments based on fundamentals and analysis fall into the category of investing. I'm an investor, not a speculator. That's just me. Okay, let's talk about leverage real quick and over-leveraging. So this is, again, from my mentors. Now, I try to find people to mentor me. Is it if it's for making money? So I'm very clear here. This isn't for weight loss. If it's for making money, I would like the person training me in the avenues that I'm using to be making 5 to 50 times more than me in that field, in that particular field. Okay. Like my personal trainer is so much stronger than me. If he's weaker than me, why am I doing a personal trainer? So regarding leveraging, this is me, and this is from my mentors, and I've taken this on because it makes me feel comfortable. So when I give you these things, I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm telling you what I do and what I did. Okay, I want to be very clear. I'm not telling anybody what to do. But how I was trained regarding leverage is, I know so many people that before the big real estate crash of 08 to 2010, they owned 20, 30, 40 houses. And what they were doing is they were taking a second out on the one house would go up $50,000 because the market was going crazy, especially in California. They take the 50 grand out, put that down on another house. That house would go up. They refi, take another 50 out, and they own 10 houses in 3 years. The challenge with having debt is that if there is a downturn in your life, physically, health-wise, or a downturn in the economy, it's very hard to weather that storm when you have loans you have to pay. So almost every person I know that had 5, 10, 15, 20 homes lost them all, including the home they lived in, because they could not weather the storm. I have a friend that had a $3 million building, and the hinge pin of the building was a Burger King. And then there were some other stores connected to it. Well, unfortunately, a family member in the Burger King was siphoning off money. That Burger King closed. And then when the hinge pin to your $2.2 million building is Burger King and it's gone, have you guys ever seen a fast food place close? What are they going to put in there? The retrofitting alone, people can't afford it, and he couldn't afford to retrofit the building to put something else in there, so his $2.2 million building went away. He put $300,000 or $400,000 down on it, financed the rest. How's he going to make that payment when he lost his renter? I'm a believer in commercial real estate. Pay cash for the building. It's the leverage that can get a little, it causes stress. This is one of my mentor's favorite sayings. The reason we have stress is because we have debt. If you think about your life and think about, sometimes people get sick, they have stress. Look up the highest percentage of the reasons that people get divorced. Higher than cheating and infidelity is money. It's money, not agreeing on money, having debt, spending too much. So it's just something to think about. Pay cash for as much as you can. Try not to have debt. I don't like investments that create debt. It's scary. So now, you guys might want to research this. I am not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is from Brian Tracy. I'm taking no credit for this. One skill that I guess I have is I can read books and listen to courses and figure out how to put that down and figure out how to make money from it. And if I can't figure it out, I don't use it. But I'm able to pluck out some pretty good golden nuggets. This is called the wedge. I learned the wedge from Brian Tracy. I learned Parkinson's law from a lot of different people, and I took Parkinson's law and I combined it with the wedge. We've got a pretty powerful idea here. So I'm going to give it to you on the surface, and don't get too distracted by reading everything on the screen. I'm going to give you an example. There probably, just think about yourself, there probably was a time in your life where you didn't make as much as you make now. As a general rule, as we get older, as a general, not everybody, but as a general rule, as we get older, we make more. And I want you to think about a time when maybe you were 25 years old, maybe you were making 20 or 30,000 bucks a year and you're broke. And then, 5 years later, you're making 50, 60 grand a year, you're still broke. And then you're making 150 grand a year, you're still broke. And then you get a bonus check. Maybe there's a lawsuit, or you got an injury, or again, a bonus check, dividends. And when you blink, that money's gone. One of the primary reasons that money's gone is because the thermometer's not set properly, the goals aren't set properly, the affirmations aren't set properly, the money comes in and it goes out. So basically what Parkinson's law says, so let's use this, it's was developed for time, and then they kind of moved it into money. Parkinson's law basically says time expands to fit into, the goal expands to fit into the time allotted, or the time goes to fit in the goal that's allotted. So let me explain. If I gave you a project and said you got a week to get it done, you'll get it done about an hour before the time's up. If I gave you the same project and I said you got 6 hours to get it done, you'll get it done 10 minutes before the time. You just worked harder and you concentrated more and you figured it out. If I gave you a year to get a project done, you'll get it done in 11.5 months. If I gave you the same project and told you to get it done in a month, you get it done in 30 days. Time expands to meet the goal expands to meet the time. It just depends on how you're setting it up. So Parkinson's law in money, basically your debt rises to meet your income, or your income rises to meet your debt. You have a certain amount of money, you have a certain amount of bills, and for most people, maybe not you guys, but for most people, your debt is just a little bit higher than your income. You're putting a little bit of money on credit cards, spending a little extra here, and then and then when the bonus check comes in, you're paying off the debt that you created because you're spending more than you made. So I want you to imagine your income going up at like a 20-degree angle, so it's creating half of a triangle going from left to right. And then for most people, that same angle, that 30-degree slope going up, it's kind of like, if you guys just look at this slash right here, just if we had a slash like this, let's look at the mouse going across the screen. That's your income, and then right below it is another line, right below it, and that's your debt. So I want you to imagine if we could take a wedge, just think of a doorstop, and we could jam the doorstop in between our income going up and our bills going up. If we can drive a wedge, which will send the bill line at just a little bit of an angle going down. So if we have this being our income, we can drive a wedge in and cause this to be our debt. The bigger gap between our debt and our income. So when you were making $20,000 a year and you were broke, then you were making $50,000 a year and you're still broke, that's because you let your bills stay with your income. You got to find a way to slow down the bills and increase the income, or you will never retire. That's the bottom line. You have to drive a wedge in between income and debt. The money that's in there is what we use to create wealth. Dennis, don't type any more tomes. I don't have time to read it. I knew Dennis is going to put this big log there. Cool. Hey, Dennis, hold the big long ones here because I don't want anybody to get distracted. I can get distracted because I knew you're going to write these big long things. Dennis is a financial strategist, everybody. You see his name on the screen. Okay, so we need to drive a wedge in between our income and our debt. Okay, that's an idea. It's not the only thing in the world. It's an idea. It's called driving the wedge. Okay, so let's go ahead here. That's all from Brian Tracy. You can look it up. We need to learn how to outpace inflation. That's why I personally invest in land. Guys, invest in whatever you want. Just try to find a way to invest in something that outpaces inflation. Putting it in a checking account probably isn't the best thing in the world. ROI on audio courses. So let's flip the brick here a little bit. So I was bankrupt in 2008. I'll get in a little bit more of that shortly. For me, guys, I can't tell you the return, the amount of money you can make by selling audio courses. It's staggering. So I spent 6 months or so getting up 6 a.m. every day, 7 days a week for 6 months. I worked from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. for 6 months every morning to create a course on networking. Okay, I bought a machine to burn the CDs, another one to print the cover on it, the graphics on the CD. I got this giant tower burner. I got this printer. I have these CD cases, the sleeves. I assembled everything right here on the desk. If you guys can hear that, on the desk I'm pounding on right now. I built and developed all my own courses. My hard cost at that time was about $19 per course. I'm selling that course even to this day for 195 bucks. It's worth tens of thousands, but nobody pays that anymore for courses. My hard cost 19 bucks, sell it for 197. That's a 10 times return on the hard cost. It's hard to beat your ROI on creating audio courses. Now I have 2 courses. One's like 10 or 11 hours and the other one's 6. Now I switched it up from all this big CD course to this. If you guys can hear this, I'm going to hit it with my fingernail. I put everything on USB sticks. My hard cost went from 19 bucks a course to $1.80 per course. Now $1.80 goes into 197 bucks 100 times. That's 100 times return just on the hard cost. And then shipping it is so much cheaper. Every one of you, there's not a person on here that can't create a course on something. And obviously you can create videos and put them on YouTube and get traffic and all that stuff. That's not my specialty. That's not something I'm going into today. I only talk about things that are my specialty. So, but when I was bankrupt, the thing that brought me out is I created these courses, and that brought me my path to be able to take that money and invest it and create wealth. So that's what changed my life. You need to find out what it is for you. Now, let me get a sip of water here. Thoughts on gold. Again, a lot of this is coming from my mentors. This is coming from one of my mentors, actually a number of my mentors. So I want to talk to you about investing in gold. Gold is a commodity. Great. Now, I sold jewelry for years, and this is something that it's for diamonds, but it's not that much different for gold. Diamonds are a horrible, unbelievably horrible investment. Diamonds are not an investment at all under any circumstance. So I'm working at a jewelry store, and the owner of the jewelry, this is $1 billion jewelry because it's in a little rinky-dink store, came in, and they had a gold mine. I'm sorry, a diamond mine in Canada. And if that diamond, this is 10 years, longer than that, 16 years ago, if that diamond mine ever released on a huge level, the amount of diamonds that they have, the diamond market would crash. That's why they don't. They let them out at a very slow rate, because if they released them all, your $10,000 diamond would be worth about 500 bucks. Gold is not that much different. So I'm going to talk to you about owning gold. People say, well, I own gold, and every single time that I go, where is it? They say it's in my portfolio. Well, where's the gold? It's in my portfolio. No, you know, where is it? It's in my portfolio. No, so you don't really technically own gold. You own the thought of gold. So this is, again, coming from my mentor. When I really got this hit me like a ton of bricks. So I'm going to lay this out for you. Everything you got to believe in the law of attraction. You got to believe that there's things out there that you can't see, and I'll prove to you there are things out there you can't see if you don't believe in it, because when you tune in your radio, do you see the radio station in the air? No. Your radio tunes into a certain frequency and plucks it out of the air. Your mind with your thoughts have a frequency. Those thoughts pull in things from the air. Gold has a frequency that it vibrates at. Gold is a horrible investment, but you should own it because gold attracts more gold. You should own gold for the fact that it attracts more gold, not that it's a good investment. Okay, now, this is how it was explained to me. Again, there's going to be things I'm going to say that you aren't going to agree with. That's fine. This is how it was explained to me. At the time of Christ, so go back 2,000 years ago, an ounce of gold bought a beautiful pair of sandals, a beautiful belt, and a beautiful robe. 2,000 years later, an ounce of gold will barely buy a man a nice pair of shoes, a belt, and a nice suit. Gold never has, never will outpace inflation. It's not a good investment for creating wealth, but it does attract gold. So gold attracts more of itself, but if you're buying it just, do you think that that's going to go up in value? It's not a good investment. Even Robert Kiyosaki talks about having a gold coin in his pocket because it attracts more income. So if you're looking at it, having it for attracting more income, it's fantastic. If you're looking at it itself as an investment, it's not. All right. And then if you want to be wealthy, it can't just be, I want to be rich. Why? Why do you want to be wealthy? What are you going to do with the money? I'm going to talk briefly about goals and affirmations, but you have to have a reason. I was always broke because I didn't have a strong enough why, and I definitely didn't have the proper affirmations. And then also diversify. No matter what you invest in, just make sure you diversify. This is coming also from my mentor. Pay your credit cards off at the end of every month. If you can't, that means you're buying things you can't afford. If I can't pay it off at the end of the month, wait 7 days. That's called the cooling off period. Like I like guns. I got a lot of guns, and they make me wait 10 days before I can bring it home. That's the cooling off period, because they say a lot of people go buy guns so they can kill somebody. They think they're going to go kill somebody. The 10 days will make them calm down and whatever. It's a cooling off period. So if you cannot pay it off by the end of the month, wait 7 days, and if you still need it, get it, as long as it can be paid off in maximum of 8 weeks, because remember what we said about debt. This is something I live by my closest mentor. Of my income, I pay. Now I'm self-employed, so if you have a job, it's very difficult to become wealthy without having something on the side. But if you know the cash flow quadrants from Robert Kiyosaki, with a job, it's very hard to do what I'm showing you here, but this is how I live my life. I pay 1/3 of my money goes to taxes, 1/3 lifestyle, 1/3 wealth creation. It's just something to look at, as opposed to there's no money at the end of the year. No matter how much you made, you blew it all. This is an idea. Now, when this was given to me, they changed the mortgage laws. I know there's prepayment penalties, and at least where I live, I believe they don't have those anymore. These are just ideas, guys. I know you're not going to agree with all of this. This is how I live my life. This is the things that I like. So what I was taught is buy a home with a 30-year mortgage and make the highest payments possible. Try to get it paid off in 15 years. The reason behind having your house paid off is no matter what happens, my house can't be taken away, and I'll not be homeless. I never need money. I can always do a refi. Because we're always going back to having stress from having debt. You can't think as clearly. I'm telling you guys, when I was broke and bankrupt, it's when you're thinking about making money and that's the only thing you think about, it's very hard to make it. The more you make and the less debt you have, or the more money you have in the bank, the more clearly you think. Bob Proctor, one of my favorite teachers, he goes, I want you to become rich because I want you to think about this. If I asked you right now to tell me the top 10 things on your mind 5 to 7 of them in some way revolve around money. When you become wealthy and you think of the top 10 things, barely 1 or 2 revolve around you not having enough money to do it. The wealthier you become, the less you have to think about money. You can think about other things, helping people, charity, giving back. It's very hard, travel. It's very hard to think about any of those things when you're worried about yourself. If you can get rid of the debt, you don't have to worry about yourself so much. Does it take a long time? Sure it does. It doesn't take overnight. And then we're not even going to get to the tax write-off because we'll be here all day. I'm just going to touch on it. Never do anything for a tax write-off. That's how the poor and middle class were raised, and that's not how the rich think. I've never met a wealthy person that talks about doing anything for a tax write-off. Okay, CPAs and accountants you should do this or do that for a tax write-off. Tax write-off, save on taxes, save on taxes. The way my mentor said it, if you want to do something or buy something for a tax write-off, he looks at me and he goes, write me a check for $100,000, and I'll give you 30. I'll give you 30,000 back. Doing something for a tax write-off, people that discuss tax write-offs with you, that teach you tax write-offs, were generally CPAs and your parents, people that are wealthy, and I mean wealthy, multi-millionaires. I personally have never met a very wealthy person that talks about doing anything for a tax write-off because they're investing in things that outpace that tax write-off. So people, the way it was explained to me is somebody tells you to do something for a tax write-off, you should run and find a new advisor. Don't ever lease a car because it's debt. It's stress. Pay the car off as soon as possible. So I can't tell you how many people I know that they go, oh my God, I have a lease. I have a lease. My car is in the garage. I can't drive it. Because if I go over, like I was looking in before I learned all this, I was going to lease a Mercedes, and you read the the fine print, and I think you can drive like 11,500 miles a year, and it's like, I don't know, 50 or 70 cents a mile for every mile over that. I was like, I could buy 5 Mercedes for what I'd pay just in penalties for the mileage. I've had many people say, I leave my car in the garage, I can't drive it because I'll pay these crazy fines. That's stress. Having this lease payment, this balloon payment, I'm going to keep the car, it's all stress. It's paid for cash, you don't have the stress. One of the reasons to have the house paid for as soon as possible, have the car paid off, is no matter what happens to me in my life, I got a place to live and I got a vehicle to drive. This is directly word for word because I recorded the conversation and I transcribed it. Have minimum 12 months cash reserve in the bank. If I don't have that much in reserve, I feel more naked than I would if I was naked in the Mojave Desert. When I get a huge commission and or sell one of my land parcels, then I would take those and get my house paid off in 5 years if possible. That was kind of advice to me. He was telling me about himself and then giving me advice. As your wealth grows, have at least a $3 million umbrella policy. My wife handles the bills, but I think a $1 million umbrella policy, it's a few $100s a year. It's nothing. It's nothing. But it makes me feel, whew, I'm protected. We're going to say this over and over. Feeling comfortable is the goal. Always remember, the reason we have stress is because we have debt. The reason we have stress is because we have debt. Now, if you have a job, I don't know how much what I'm going to talk to you for 5 minutes will help you. If you're self-employed, I created a 6.5-ish hour course on one thing called power partnering. Some people call it POI, person of influence. I call it a power partner. It's called a COI, a center of influence. In the business world, in the corporate world, they call it a biz dev partner. They call it a channel partner. I'm going to give it to you in the networking world of power partnering. I tell people I do one-on-one coaching mostly with insurance, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, and financial planners. That's mostly when I'm teaching networking one-on-one. That's who I work with. The number one thing I say is, if you're self-employed, to never look for a client. Most of you, I think, on this or self-employed, I don't think you should ever look for a client. I want you to sit with that while I get a sip of water. Here's why. There are people all over the world who have your client right now. You find them and you'll have unlimited clients. Ideas would be, if I owned a moving company, I would never look for a company moving. Why? Why would I waste my time looking for a company moving? Who else would know about a company moving? A CPA would, a banker would, a business attorney would, a commercial real estate agent would, people that do commercial alarms, commercial carpeting, those people would. Get together with them and exchange contacts, and then you'll never look for a client. A financial planner is looking for people that have money that they need to invest. Why would you look for a client? Why wouldn't, if you're a financial planner, why wouldn't you just look for CPAs, estate planning attorneys, on and on and on? If you're a mortgage lender, look for real estate agents. If you're a real estate agent, look for financial planners, estate planning attorneys, people to help people do relocation. No matter what industry you're in, anybody on here that's self-employed, you should be able to name 100 different industries of people that you could partner with to help you build your business. My wife has 163 different industries for land banking. So again, I covered this, but Power Partner goes by Power Partner, Collaborative Partner, POI, COI. The definition of it is there is someone else beside you who calls on the same exact person you do. They just don't do what you do. The way to kind of paint a picture here for you, I want you to imagine in your mind a CPA, a banker, a bookkeeper, a business attorney. They all have the exact same client. They all could serve that client, and they don't step on each other's toes. They could exchange contacts with each other. It's called power partnering. Again, if you think you're a networker, let me just tell you this. If you're going out to networking events looking for clients, anywhere you're going, if you're looking for clients, you are not a networker. You are a salesperson. Networkers look for other professionals to partner with. And then, again, that's a 7-hour conversation. I don't have the time for it here. Salespeople look for clients. You'll always be looking for clients. You want to spend some time building relationships. You got to spend time building relationships. The more time you spend building relationships, once those referrals start coming in, you can work less. So 10 years at least, I'm doing 80 hours a week, making 80 grand a year. I was building up those relationships. I didn't say power partnering takes 6 months. Me personally, 5,100, I want to say it again, 5,100 one-on-one coffee meetings in coffee shops. 5,000 one-on-one coffee meetings. That took me 13 years. The first 10 years, I'm 80 hours a week, building my network, and then obviously I'm making sales and doing all of that. Now it's 12 or 13 hours a week, 8 to 9 times that per year in 7 times less. I'm making like 8 times more than I did in 5 to 7 times less hours now, because once you build the network feeds you. The network feeds you. So if you want to build a referral-based practice, you need to learn how to power partner. I can't just spend the whole time on this because some of you are not self-employed, but power partnering. Find other people that have your client and partner with them instead of just trying to sell everybody that you meet. And you're either going to learn how to be a networker. Let's put it this way. Most people I meet, I'm the greatest networker ever. Let me just run this by you. If you've made a cold call, I haven't made a cold call I haven't picked up a call look for business in 12 years. If you're picking up the phone looking for business, if you're going to networking events looking for clients, if you're doing pay-per-click, if you're doing SEO, none of that is networking. And if that's all you're relying on, then you're not a networker. If somebody calls you on the phone and says, hey, I just talked to so-and-so, they said you are the greatest blah, blah, blah. They said you're the greatest blah, blah, blah that ever lived, and I need your services. When 90% of your business, 95% of your business coming in is from your past clients and from other professionals, then you're a networker. So you're making 100,000 a year now, you're making 200,000, 300,000, whatever it is. If you added power partnering to what you're currently doing, you could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-fold your income. And it doesn't cost anything. It costs time having the coffee meetings. But once you've had the coffee meetings and you teach each other how to send each other referrals, you do what I do. You sit at home every day, referrals come in, and then you spend your time serving the client instead of looking for business. The average person that's self-employed spends 28 to 35 hours a week looking for business or thinking about where they're going to find more business. Now, I spend no time looking for business or thinking about where I'm going to find it, which is why I only work about my land banking side, again, 6 to 8, 9 hours a week, and the networking side 5 to 7 hours a week, just depends. Now, if a lot of referrals come in, yes, I'm going to be working more, but I'm servicing the clients. When you're serving the client is when you're making money. That's when you're making money. Going out there and doing all the networking, the means to the end is so someday you're not networking anymore. That's the means to the end of networking, so you don't have to do it anymore. And if you're self-employed, I'm only going to look here. How many one-on-one coffee meetings are you having? Not with potential clients. Everybody goes, well, how many potential clients? I don't care how many potential clients you're meeting. I want to know how many people you're meeting that you could partner with, that you could send clients to each other. So you guys can do the math. 5,100 I did in 12 and a half years. It says 1 to 5 a day I was doing. I tell people try to do 2 a week. Do 2 a week and you'll be ahead of anybody you ever meet if you just have 2 a week. 2 a week is 100 a year. It's a lot. Add a lot of people to your knowledge base. Now I want to talk to you about 401ks. Okay, so just follow along. A lot of you have 401ks and that's great. I don't, but a lot of you do, and it's great. There's nothing wrong with it. I just want to run something by you here real quick. Let's enjoy the show. And I'll give you a chance to look at some cool pictures. Who owns these? Hedge fund managers. I've never in my life met anybody that's gone, I'm wealthy and I got rich from my 401k. My 401k made me wealthy. The guys who manage all that money are the ones that get, well, you look at the Hamptons, Howard Stern, Bon Jovi, couple other, Seinfeld lives there, and a lot of hedge fund managers live there. You got to do things a little bit differently, okay? So talk about a little bit about investing, and a lot of people think $1 million is a lot of money. I got news for you. Unless you have a pension or some kind of a big retirement, like my father really doesn't have any money, but my dad's, I give away his personal information too much, thousands and thousands of dollars a month for the rest of his life because he was a sheet metal worker, so he's got a construction pension. My dad never needed to save money. Most of us on this don't have a pension, are going to get your Social Security. By the time we get Social Security, it's not even going to pay your medical bills. It's not going to pay your medical insurance, so you can forget about Social Security. You got to live off of what your investments kick off. So I know there's a million different ways to get to the numbers that you personally need. I'm only going after this one. Very conservative here, but just take a look at your age, and if you're starting at 0 and you find your age, that's how much you have to put away each month to have $1 million. And that's if you think $1 million is a lot of money. I'm not going to go too deep into these other articles, but 4 million is the new 1 million. So you can forget about having $1 million and thinking you're going to retire unless you're going to live in a tent in the forest. And if you live in a tent in the forest and you don't have medical insurance, and you think $1 million you're going to live on as soon as you get sick. My stepdad was in Portugal and had a life-threatening thing happen to him. He ended up being in the hospital for 4.5 months. If he didn't have insurance, he'd be living with me. $1 million is nothing, especially for illnesses. So $1 million is nothing. 4 million is the min. You should be, if you guys thinking you need to have $1 million and retire, again, unless you have some major pension, change it to 4. Just change it to 4 million and it'll change your life, change your thoughts. It'll resonate differently. Just change it to 4. So what they're saying here, and it's on the next slide, so I'm going to kind of skip over this. What a lot of people are saying is you should pull out no more than 4% of your savings each year when you retire, or you're going to superannuate, which means run out of money before you die. So if you had $500,000 put away and you only pull out 4%, because you pull out more than it, you're going to run out of money before you die. Just think about how long you're going to live after retirement. That's $9,000 a year on $500,000. So if you had $1 million, do the math. So actually 1.8%. But what we're looking at here is that $500,000 you're pulling out $9,000 a year. So I don't know where you're going to live to live. That's my medical insurance costs that. So even at 2.5, yeah, 2.5 to 3%, they're saying 1.8% here. And Lance just said it's 2.5%. Good. 2.5% on $1 million is $25,000 a year. My medical insurance costs me a quarter of that. What about gas and everything else? It's nothing. $1 million isn't enough. That's flat out. When we're talking about 401ks, just look at what's in yellow. I didn't write any of this. I just find it. My mentors give it to me. The important decisions about your 401k are made by somebody with no training or education. In most companies, 90% of the country's employees' 401k plans are watched over by people who need no special qualifications, no investing experience at all. If you look at the bottom, the impact of 401k fees is hidden and colossal. Many fees are not required to be disclosed to you. People think, I know the fees. You don't. You don't. Just read Tony Robbins' book. Tony Robbins had people analyze 401ks that were masters at it, and they couldn't even figure out what the fees are. It can eat up half the income you've put in over the 30-year span. A recent study found that more than 80% of 401k plan participants were unaware of how much they were paying in fees. There's just no way to figure it out. More and more employees are using 401ks. Hold on, I just hit my mouse. Sorry about that. It's the hidden fees, hidden fees, hidden fees, hidden fees. And again, that's a pretty good book, Money Master the Game. That's a pretty good book by Tony Robbins. Talks a lot about it. Hidden fees and various backdoor payments are costing Americans about $17 billion a year and can reduce an investor's overall retirement savings by as much as 40 to 60%. I want to go back here real quick. And people go, oh, it's a flat fee. I'm only paying a quarter per whatever. Okay, I want to go back to these homes. These homes were paid for by the hidden fees on a lot of these programs, okay, that you don't even know about. Let's move forward here. So we're going to talk about what I believe is a missing link in investing and what my mentors believe. And for me, it's land banking. It's what my wife and I used. I own 1.1 million square feet of land, 1.1 million square feet on 8 different parcels. I've helped 104, 105 people purchase over 320 parcels of land worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, helping people diversify out of these types of investment vehicles. So if you have a 401k, this might resonate with you. Who land is for, or who it's not for, is those who do not have a long-term perspective. If you think 10 years is a long time and you have kids, I want you to think 10 years ago, how old were your kids and how fast time went by. 10 years is not that far, not that long. So land is not for people that don't have a long-term perspective. Those who think cash flow can make them wealthy, that's a huge mistake. Again, cash flow and passive income, completely different. And the speculators who try to time the market. Who it's for are people that don't like the volatility of the stock market. People have cash just sitting in the bank losing to inflation. Those who don't want to be a landlord or fall prey to the 4 T's, tenants, toilets, termites, and trouble. Business owners whose business is their only investment. So we have a lot of business owners that invest with us, because that's all they have is they put everything in their business. They're not diversified into anything else. And then people who have old 401ks or IRAs or cash with $25,000 up to $2 million. Those are the types of people we can help. So what's land banking? Land banking is a practice of buying affordable pre-developed land in the path of growth. I'm going to show you what made me wealthy. Okay, this slide and the next slide, these two slides, if you get this, just fundamentally what land can do, it can make you rich. So if you take a look at this screen, you'll see all these yellow lines. So it's a backdated Google image. Google actually put these lines in here showing you where the roads are going to go. This is Rancho Cucamonga, Southern California, 2002, backdated Google image. You will see these yellow lines here. This on and off ramp has not even been built. But the city is going to spend $16 to $46 million putting in an on and off ramp, and it's not for no reason. It's for a reason. It's to feed an area. If you can find out things like where roads are going to go or on and off ramps are going to go before they get put in, you can get wealthy. In this picture, $50 to $150,000 per acre. $50 to $150,000 per acre. We're going to jump ahead now 10 years, and it's $2 million to $7 million per acre. Never to go back down to 50 to 150,000 an acre, because one thing about land, it's a finite resource. When it's gone, it's gone. If you know the area and you can find an area that's growing and has things like this, you go from 50 to 150,000 acre to 2 to 7 million per acre, and you can do it in 10 years. That's wealth creation. That's the visual of what land banking is. That's what we help people do. We help them invest old 401ks and cash into areas like this and get rich. Do they put it all in there? Absolutely not. You need money to live on. It's a diversification. So you always want to think about who you're listening to, who you're talking to, who's mentoring you. Find people that are successful in a field, and if it interests you, go as deep as you can. This is a cool saying I learned from my mentor that his father learned from a very, very, very wealthy man. It says, and he said it with a very thick accent that I can't copy. In America, everybody has a chance to become a millionaire. The problem is most people don't recognize the opportunity. That's why most people aren't wealthy. So you always want to just ask yourself, and it depends on, guys, if you're getting your car worked on, the guy doesn't have to be wealthier than you. He just has to have more knowledge than you about that topic. So in my world, if you own more land than me and you've made more money in land, you shouldn't take my advice. So again, I have 1.1 million square feet of land. So I'm pretty knowledgeable in this. I've got thousands of hours of study in this. My wife's got many more thousands of hours than I do. So don't take this personally if you're in the money world, because some people take this personally. But if you're sitting with your quote-unquote wealth advisor, well, just ask yourself, how much does this person earn? What's their net worth? And what are they truly an expert in? Because there's a lot of people out there claiming to be wealth advisors and financial advisors that are going to other people, and they're charging a lot of money and a lot of hidden fees for it. And at the end of the day, they really aren't experts in what they're charging you a lot of money for. Find people who are wealthy, have a breadth of knowledge in what they're teaching you, and then go deep with them. That's why you need to have a lot of mentors. You need to have a team built around. You need to have a financial planner. You need to have a CPA. You need to have attorneys. You might even need to have a personal land banker. But it's not all going to come from one person. A couple final things here. I know a lot of people think the greatest book in the history of the world is Think and Grow Rich. And Napoleon Hill wrote that book by talking to Henry Ford and Andrew Carnegie and a number of other people. Me personally, I cannot get through Think and Grow Rich. It's just the way it's written. I'm 10 minutes, I'm fading out. I can't do it. I know a lot of people say it's a great book. I don't like it at all. But I can get the exact same knowledge by going to the source. Again, Napoleon Hill is a reporter. He didn't invent that stuff. A lot of people idolize Napoleon Hill. Those of you that know what I'm talking about and know that book, you're idolizing the wrong guy. The person that gave him that information, the highest percentage of it is Andrew Carnegie. At the time when he sold his steel company, he was worth tens of billions of dollars. The public library that you've been in your city, there's a very high likelihood Andrew Carnegie paid to have it built. Most of the libraries in the United States were built because of Andrew Carnegie donating the money. Okay, so there's a book on Audible called The Wisdom of Success, Andrew Carnegie. In book form, it's called The Wisdom of Andrew Carnegie. So title's a little different. It's The Wisdom of Success by Andrew Carnegie on Audible. In book form, it's called The Wisdom of Andrew Carnegie. Either way, let me tell you what it is. It's the word, they had many others, a word-for-word interview between Napoleon Hill and his mentor, Andrew Carnegie. Napoleon Hill then took these notes and wrote Think and Grow Rich. Again, I can't get through Think and Grow Rich. I can get through this all day long. It's easier for me. I can't recommend enough that you either on Audible get this or you buy the book if you can find it. It is the single thing that changed my life as far as book goes more than anything else. Very close second, Think and Grow Rich. Not Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So this book, The Wisdom of Success, and then Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kiyosaki. You got to get fundamentals about how money works. That's kind of where this came from. So, and this is my personal thing. My dad used to always tell me, you got to work really hard. You got to work really hard. And one thing I learned is, and I want you to look at your hands and think about people that work with their hands. And the farther you can have your employment go from your hands, up your arm, past your elbow, past your shoulder, past your neck to your brain, the farther your work can go from your hands to your brain, the more money you're going to make. So it's not how hard you work, it's how hard you think. Just think about that. You're working 80 hours a week. Are you working 80 hours a week? You're thinking 80 hours a week. You know, construction workers that are swinging hammers, they're only going to make as much as their hands and their body can produce. When you think with your mind, it's infinite. So yes, you need to work hard, but what kind of work? It's get the work away from your hands into your brain. And then when we're thinking about money and we're thinking about creating wealth, I want you to think about the things that you've invested in personally. Who taught you? So I just sat with my friend Dennis, who's on here. Dennis is very passionate about what he does, and it's very cool, and I'm going to do some investing with him. You find people that have a knowledge you don't and take it. If you're taking advice from people, I just want you to think about this, from people that say do this for a tax write-off, it's a virtual guarantee they're not wealthy. A lot of the things you do with your money, you learned it from your parents. Okay, here's the biggest problem, and this is pointed out by so many of my mentors. If you get this and you really, really get this, I want you to really take this in. Most of our parents, everybody I know that's in their 70s, they have pensions. I don't know anybody in their 70s that doesn't have a pension. Your parents had pensions. They did not need to learn how to create wealth. I'm going to give you two examples. My dad's pension is more than $5,000 a month. My dad paid $17,000 for his house, which is now worth $600,000. When you have a pension on a house you paid off 30 years ago, when you have a big pension, you have a house you paid off 30 years ago. My dad doesn't need to have $4 million in the bank. My dad's got thousands a month coming in, and he's got no house payment. I cannot take investing advice from a guy that's got a multi-$1,000 a month pension because he knows nothing about it. Nothing. You got to find people that have created millions of dollars out of nothing and take advice from them. You're going to take advice from your parents, especially if they had pensions. You are going to have a very, very difficult. I'm obviously very passionate about this. You're going to have a very difficult time retiring. It's going to be very hard because you're not letting your money work for you properly. You're not investing properly. You're spending too much money. You're not investing it, everything. You're not following Parkinson's law. You're following a path down a road. You eat the same food because that's what you were raised on. You're still eating the same food now. You're doing the same investment strategies, same spending strategies your parents did. They don't need to have $4 million. There's a very good chance you need that at a minimum. My goal is 30 million. My goal is 30 million. And I got 10 years because I'm going another 9 to 10 years. I'm cutting way back. I'm going to be relocating to New Mexico. I'm already semi-retired. Now I'm going to be super semi-retirement in 9 years. And my son turns 20. My goal is 30 million when my son turns 20. So I have to resonate at a different level to bring that into my life. One of the ways I'm doing it is doing webinars with great people like you. I just want you to think about who you're taking your advice from. So I got a couple more slides here. Some of you might be interested in talking to me further about a vehicle to invest in to help you create wealth, and that's land. People who say things like this, I can certainly help them. If you've heard this from other people, I'd love to talk to them. If you've ever said any of these things, I'd love to talk to you. I want to diversify my portfolio. My 401k or IRA only goes up when I put money into it. I need to recoup money I lost during the downturn. My investments are stressing me out. I'm sick of tenants, toilets, termites, and trouble. That's the 4 T's. The stock market's too volatile. I need to do a 1031 exchange. I don't think, oh my God, I don't think I'll ever be able to retire. Those are the types of people that I can help. So if you found this helpful and you want to talk to me one-on-one or be invited to one of our land banking webinars, now my wife does the land banking webinars. Okay, they're about 90 minutes. If you feel you have the proper mentality, we talked about that earlier, you got a long time perspective, you want to have more out of life, and you have an old 401k or an IRA or cash, anywhere between 30,000 and 2 million bucks, I can help you diversify into land. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. You can email me anytime. That's my email on the screen is rick@dirtisgold.com. I'm doing this 5 more times for Eric Lofholm's proteges this year. I'll promote some of them. If you got one thing, maybe the one thing you got out of the last hour and 20 minutes we've been together is that book, the Carnegie Napoleon Hill interview. That book will change your life. I don't know what it was for you. Hopefully you got 10 or 15 little things to think about. But if you got one, I'm pleased, and I hope you're pleased. And I can't tell you how honored and happy I am that so many of you got on today to spend an hour with me. Sorry, I went a little bit over. Again, if any of you are interested in getting the links to the land banking webinars where my wife goes into unbelievable detail on how to create wealth through land, if you want to talk to me about any of my networking education, feel free to email rick@dirtisgold.com. Again, thanks for getting on. I'm going to stop the recording. After it renders on my computer, I'll post this on YouTube. I'm going to send you all the link so you can take it. You can forward it out to people. You can go back and look at some of the slides. And also, if you want my book list, my recommended reading book list. Again, I hope this helped you. I've got 20 years of education. It's very hard to put it all down in an hour. And those of you that teach classes, take any topic and you could do a 2-day seminar on it. I just skimmed the surface on things I've learned from my mentors, and hopefully it helped you. Again, everybody, thanks for being on. I'll get the link to you shortly. Have a great evening. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.